Hi, welcome to Building SaaS with Python and Django. My name is Matt Lehman, and on this stream we work on Django apps. We're going to continue on my journaling app and work through the sign-up simplification work that we've been doing. We're right in the middle of it. This is an app about journaling and journaling via email. So I want the sign-up process to work via email as well, such that passwords aren't required. So that's really the objective here. We've done a lot of this work, as you can see from this particular issue already. And there's more to do, so we're going to get right back into it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me anything about Python, Django, or web development. That's what I'm here for. And of course, to work on this project and show you what a real-life Django project looks like in action. So where we left off is right here. There's an aspect of this process that is incomplete when somebody signs up. The previous project we were using, Django All-Auth, had a verification flow. Whereas if you clicked a link and actually verified, then you'd have, hey Jeffrey, welcome. You'd have the ability to mark somebody's email address as verified and so essentially treat them as trusted. And I was using that attribute of Django All-Auth for a very important reason, and I'll demonstrate that now. So we have in this project something that sends out email prompts for your journal. You respond to these prompts, and that's how your journal gets populated. But it was important that we didn't send it out to any rando who signs up with a junk email account, because I don't want to hurt the deliverability of the email for this service, because that is a critical aspect. So in the sending of a prompt, we have to get a valid user. This is, I guess, is actually not the spot. So let's look for where this is actually called, and you'll see what I mean. So the way this is working is currently there is a cron job effectively that happens every day and goes through every account that is valid and sends the email prompt that's tailored to them, and then they can respond to that via their own email. But what we want is only accounts that are valid. So if you sign up for this site, this is the website is called JourneyInbox, if you're curious. So you can sign up there, you can read about the details of what it's about. But if you sign up, but you never, like let's say you were a bot and you weren't using a real email address, and you try and create an account, what I don't want to do is try and send a prompt to you. So I only want to send it to people that have gone through the process and actually gone to their email account, clicked the button that allows them to log in. There's a validation that happens there. It proves that their account is real. So the challenge is, if we go to this promptable definition that I've made, we were basing it off of this email address. And this email address model actually goes away with Django All-Auth. It's no longer here. So who we're getting information about it's not there anymore. So this tells me that we need to add something to a model that effectively gets this same kind of attribute of that it's verified. I see your comment there, John. If you got something to remember, okay. Sure, if you remember what it is, let me know. So I think what I want to do probably is simplify how this works. We don't need an email address anymore. I really want to just to validate, is the account valid or not? The complexity of Django All-Auth is very flexible, but it would allow for multiple email addresses. And the way that I'm designing the surface, I'm not going to permit multiple email addresses. The email address you sign up with is the one that you have. Maybe there's some future state where we change the email address and then I need something more complex, but that's not what it is today. So I think what I want to do is probably add a verified status to the account model itself, and it will default to false, so that you're essentially not trusted. That's going to be tricky. Why is that going to be tricky? Because anybody that is currently valid will then get their stuff set to false. So how am I going to deal with that? That's good. I'm just thinking out loud. So I've not thought through all of these details yet. So we may have to. I'm not really sure yet. Because in this world, I've already modified I have already modified the system not to use the email address, the email model anymore from Django All Auth. So removing that app means that the database table will still be there. Actually, there's a step we could take to delete these models if we wanted to, but I won't be doing that. So the table will still be there, but Django won't know about it. It'll like lose visibility because we're not using Django All Auth anymore. So the information currently that tells us everything that who's verified or not is not there. So what I could do is I could probably figure out the set of accounts. I mean, it's a small enough list. I don't have a ton of users here, so this is one where the size of the service may be to my benefit, where maybe this is just a manual task that I need to remember to do myself, where I can go in and find every account that is currently active and and it will be not verified because that will be the default, and then just go into the admin and set them. It's probably the best I can manage with this. Not the best solution. So what would we do differently if we needed to? One thing I could do, if I wasn't going to do that, how else would I do this? Like if it were something where you maybe say you had thousands of users or something and wasn't in this situation. In that case, I probably would have used that existing table of verified emails that, while yes, Django can't see it, I could do a raw SQL query. I could drop down to the actual SQL level, get a query on that table, look for all the emails, and then I could write a migration that would do that. We're not going to go through that process because that's just excessive for what we need. So let's just assume that that's not necessary. So let's add it here. So what I want to do is add, what should we call it? Verified is probably the right name. So we need to, there's actually a couple steps in this process. So what are all these little dots? What? Okay. GitHub's going crazy with this little menu of too much stuff. Let's edit this and add in a little bit more here. So we are going to change this promptable query set. And by this time, but after this change, it should be very simple of, are you verified or not? Which will just be a filter on the Boolean field of verified. And but after that, we need to like actually do something to, let's see, have logic. Did I already put this somewhere? I don't know. We need to add logic that will set verified to true when a user logs in. And we could do this like it's really only important for that to happen the first time, but it will be harmless to do that every time. So if we just do that as part of the login process of like, you're gonna get your account record updated to be verified, and if it's already true, it'll just be like an idempotent thing. But that's that's gonna be necessary as part of this process. We gotta find out where to do that. One of these things I think we have to take advantage of is Django Sesame, the project that we're using. We have to find out if it has a signal. I think it does. So let's actually take a peek now, see if there's any signals that we can connect to, because we're gonna have to at some point, like once the login view happens, figure out how to trigger something. So let's take a quick peek here. Let me actually search for, I thought there were signals in here, but it could be that I am wrong. I'm looking for like a hook method. So the other option is we can subclass the login view that allows us to log in and then just add in our logic there. This might be the way that we have to go to get that extra stuff. And just, yeah. It's not my favorite way of extending something, using inheritance for customization. I'd rather customized by composing, putting two things together rather than being an is-a relationship. That's what inheritance models. If anybody is able to take a peek at the Sesame docs and wants to see if there are any features that allow us to do something, we'll do that a little bit later. So let's start with the first thing. We need to add a new field. So it's going to be verified, and it will be models. It will be a Boolean field, and the default value will be equal to false. And we do want to have I want to have a DB index on it because I don't think it's going to cost that much, frankly. And this is something we're going to filter on regularly. So if my service is around for a super long time, most of the accounts would they would end up not verifying. So it'd be good to just filter out on who actually followed through with this. So that's the other aspect of this. So that's that aspect. And then let me go back to this promptable thing for a second. Oh, okay, so it's already doing an active. So maybe, yeah, I don't know that I strictly need the DB index, because we're going to get the index on who's active, which is dramatically going to reduce the set of people that are even possible. So who's active, considered active, is anybody in one of these statuses. So if you're trialing, you're active, or you're exempt. The only person that's exempt is me, because I won't have to pay for the service. That's when you would fall into one of these categories. And this is over time, like active is people who are paying, which great, I want to support them. And then trialing is anybody who's in the trial period. There's a 2-week trial for the service. And there's a background job that expires these. So the set of all active users is actually going to be pretty small. So maybe from that regard, adding another index, I don't know if if SQLite would actually take use of it, or it would just be extra. So you could think like, we're going to get the active set. It's going to be not even 1% of all the accounts on there, and then it'd be okay if if the code had to or the database had to scan through all of those remaining records to find who's actually verified. I'm going to leave it because it's kind of harmless, but that's just my thought process there. So I think that's our Boolean field stuff that we're going to need. And then I think let's make sure we add the migration. Let's put some help text on it so we know what it is. And let's just keep going that way. So an account is verified if they log in through email at least once. So that's what that attribute represents. Okay, so for this, now we can run manage. Why is it not tabbing that out? Manage. Should really make like a convenience command for this because it's kind of annoying. Manage, make migrations. All right, so we've added a new migration for our account verified field. It also updates this historical account. So we put history. We used Django simple history to make sure that this is tracked. Ooh, that item potency, that could become annoying. If every time it updates, it puts I don't know what happens there. If like you log in, and is it going to create a new historical record if the database is trying to update the same value? So maybe we want to be a little bit more careful when we do that update and make it only be a one-time thing. Something worth checking. Okay, let's look at the account migrations, because I want to go in here and then run the formatter on it so that it doesn't catch us later. This line's too long. Yeah, it's gonna complain about some of this stuff. So let's come in here and little monkey with this a little bit. Go go to the end, and then we will do put in separator here, do that. And actually we have the same thing down here. So let's be very careful copying, pasting, and migrations. Like, this is not something you want to do casually, but that does represent its character, like ultimately it's character for character matching what the migration system will expect. So it's not going to generate like another migration, which it could if we weren't careful. Okay, so that's that. Let's go now to the promptable, and it looks like I didn't write any specific test for this, but I might have a test that was broken. Yeah, we do. We have some. So I was testing this indirectly through these task tests, and that's fine. So let's bring up one of these and then have the account models side by side. That was not side by side. Account models. There we go. Okay. So we want to switch promptable to be now. We don't need to filter any of these particular attributes. Now it just looks like this gets really simple, right? It just simplifies down to look at the account record and see if verified is true. So that's good. And then over here, creating, I already got rid of, there was a factory here, which is what this fix me is saying. So what we need to do to recreate this scenario is to use the factory and say that account verified is true, which I think it's a 1-to-1 field. Yeah, so we should, I think, be able to do account verified equal true here to use the account and set that. Let's see how that works. No, okay. Phooey, fine. So let's do user account. I think that should be the reverse name for this because it is a 1-to-1 field. The factory should have made an account, so that should be definitely be present. And then we could do verified equal true, and then user account save. This is not the best way to do this, or the cleanest way to do this, but it's getting the job done, and I'm not too picky about it this time. So let's take these little attributes, drop them here. Whoops, it did not, okay. And put them on these tests. All right, let's check the file. It runs. I didn't actually look at the content of the tests. So do we have a test where it won't send if you're like unverified? So let's take a peek. We have our job, and the job is the okay, it's not really a job anymore. It's now a task. Let's rename this. So it's the send mail task because we switched from the Django extensions job system to the Huey task model. So we have account tasks is where this lives. Nope, I'm wrong. Entry tasks, sorry. So this is the thing we're calling. This is where the promptable thing happens. And this is where we want to make sure that the user is promptable. Maybe, was this test failing before? Maybe that's proof enough. Ah, it was failing. Okay, cool. So I think we have evidence here that it's doing the right thing, it's filtering in the right group, and if you're not in this group, then you don't get access. And I don't know that I mean, I could explicitly test the negative. I don't feel compelled to do that. So we now have here's where we were. That's a different feature, that's later. So I think we're good with the state of promptable. So this aspect right here is done, where we've updated that query set. Jeffrey, can I talk about some front end stuff? Yeah, I think so. I think we might even get to. Did we already do front end stuff on? Well, we did a little bit. Jeffrey, do you have a specific question about front end that you're? I mean, I'm happy to talk through some things a little abstractly right now. I don't have a lot of like necessary front end work to do with this app. That's the tricky part of this. Is like we are doing some simplification. Also, I guess after we do this feature, I did talk about moving to my homeschooling application, School Desk, and doing a similar simplification to the sign-up flow. And in addition to that, streamlining the like onboarding experience is not great. So that is a spot where I could do more front-end work, but it would be a while. All right, let's find out how we're going to actually set this stuff to verified. Just my 2025 approaches. Let's see. I still am heavily using Django templates. If I need something more dynamic, I'm still reaching for HTMX. That part hasn't changed. So, like the short answer is Django templates plus HTMX when dynamic stuff is needed. That's the short answer. There's an interesting aspect of Laravel. Let me check on something. I will immediately confess I've not done this, but Laravel has one part of their ecosystem. Gosh, there's so much. What was it? Inertia, I think, was pretty intriguing and it's because I think it's while this is specific to, this is a description of in the Laravel context, I think that this inertia idea is something that works in multiple frameworks. And the idea, I guess, behind it is that you can do like server-side stuff, but then you can use React and things. So if you were a React developer and that was what you preferred, this is an interesting way to go. But I've not done it myself, and I'm not a React developer, which is part of why I don't do it. So I don't have any like complex. I'm not building like a super web front end complex thing. I don't know. I'm not describing it very well, but my needs are simple. So therefore, I use a pretty safe stack of technology there, and I think it lends itself to quick solutions where server-side rendering for I have a hard time warming up to React too. I think, and I feel like it changes itself every couple of years. If it's like, are we using effects or hooks or Redux or props or like what? It's just like on and on and on. So I have a hard time using React myself. But I was actually at a meetup event this past Saturday. I was at a coffee shop. Me too, Jeffrey. I'm not young either. But the interesting thing that was happening was I was meeting with someone who was building a side app, and this gentleman was using AI tools. And some of you might be like, "Ugh, AI tools. What is he talking about?" But it was actually pretty impressive that where he was able to put in a prompt and say, like, I want an app that does this. And he made up an idea on the spot, and it generated like all this code. And it was essentially a good skeleton, including some basic database models of what the app could be. And while it's not a perfect solution, there's still a long way to go. One thing to note about it is that the implementation that was generated by the AI used React. It used JavaScript, a JavaScript framework. I don't know if it's Express or something else. I don't know. Not super well steeped in that space. And React. And I think the reason for that is like there's so much React out there that these AIs can, as because AI is nothing more than a predictor of the next token. So if a lot of, and the way that prediction happens is building models that are trying to predict based on what's commonly out there. So if there's a lot of React code, then naturally an AI is going to believe that front-end code is React. Now, I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm probably more bad than good, maybe, but that is the reality. So if you're like at a hackathon and you're trying to use a quick way to get started in Bootstrap, I don't know, there's something to it. So that's something to consider. All right, let's move on to this part about how we do this actually set verification. All right, where can we verify? So we know that if we go to the URLs and we don't need that page right now. Come back to that later. We've got this. Yeah, you're welcome. Hopefully the answer was actually useful. We've got this login view that comes from Django Sesame. And let's actually just like dig into the code for a minute and see what it's doing. We are in the Sesame views. I'm looking to see if there's any kind of like hook that we might benefit from. What is this? That's the Django control. So it's just calling authenticate from Django itself. And login success. Okay. So this tells me mostly no, there's no hook here. There's nothing special about this. Which I think from my perspective means we can, what can we do? What do I want to do, I should say. Hold on, let me see what else is in here. Got a redirect Nixon. Oh, there's really not that much. Okay. Well, cool. Thankfully, it's not complex. And so I'm not too worried about what we're about to do. So what I'm going to do is subclass this thing. We're going to make our own login view, and we will hook in the behavior we want. We want to be able to modify the account attribute at the time of login. If I had my druthers, I would have preferred that this view be slightly annotated to have a signal that someone could react to. All right, stop. Maybe there is. Maybe there are signals from Django itself, like the Django contrib stuff, that we can react to. So let's take a peek there. Let's go to the Django project web documentation. Let's take a look at 5.1 here and go to look for signals. So here's the signals documentation. This is just about how signals work. And signals are synchronous callbacks. So this is one of the things you need to be careful with if you're working with signals. Some people like, the way a signal happens is like, it's basically your opportunity to write some custom code that you can react to something that happened within the framework or within some third-party code. But some people might think that, oh, I can do that and it will just like happen in the background. And then they might do some big computation that takes a long time. That's not how it works. It's immediately when the signal is invoked, whatever the function that is attached to that signal as the receiver of that signal is called right at that spot. And so that means that happens in the view context. Now, thankfully, the thing we're about to modify, or if we use a signal, is not a big thing. It's like updating one Boolean value on a model, which is like one update to a database record. So really not big at all, but it's something to be aware of if you're trying to do something more severe with signals. What I want to find is any signals, like what the built-in signals are, and that is unfortunately hard to discover. Let's try ChatGPT and see if it knows Django signals. Let's see. I've heard if you be nice to ChatGPT, it also gives you better answers. So please tell me, what are the built-in signals that the Django contrib packages have? Are there any for Django contrib auth? That's really what we're after. It's not like any particular signal outside of that, but those, the auth ones, yeah, is what we care about. Okay, so maybe this is the best way, and actually let's go look at, let's see if he mentions user logged in over here. He might not. Okay, so the Sesame documentation just assumes that you can figure out this stuff. So these are the signals. This is something that it doesn't need to happen like once you're verified after you log in. If that's a fine time for this to actually fire. Let's confirm that we want to confirm that it's not hallucinating. That's important too. So let's actually go to the Django code, and we've got it up over here. I can even pull the latest, make sure that latest and greatest, that's probably beyond 5.1, but that's okay. So let's open this up and search for user logged in. We'll see how it works ideally. So here's where the signal itself is defined, and then these are all the places that it's used. So it's imported in the auth init, and that looks like it's used. Okay, this might be the spot where it's used. What is this? It's register user logged in. Trying to see where it is more than once. Register the whole. Ew. This is interesting. Look at this. We're only doing, oh, that's last login. I'm getting confused. User logged in should happen like every time, right? Register. What? Okay, hold on. Let's just go there. Stop looking at the preview. There it is. Why are you only, whatever. Okay. Who cares? I don't need to know every reference, I guess. Let's look at the one that matters. It's probably this one, where a signal, when the way you send or invoke other receivers is by sending a signal. So this is the place where it actually matters. Let's see what this is. So this is calling login. Now notice over in the view, it calls login. This is probably not the login from, well, or is it? Yeah, here's login. So here we are, and then at the bottom, the last thing it does is it calls that signal. Okay, so what we want to do then to get the behavior that we want to update the status of the account is to make a receiver that uses the user logged in signal. And that way we don't have to customize the login view. So that's actually a good thing. So this is a benefit of signals. So it's both a benefit and a downside if you're not careful. A benefit of signals is that when you intentionally want to decouple things so that they are not obviously bound together, we don't want to bind our code like to the Django Sesame login view. We're not trying to extend the behavior of Django Sesame itself. We're trying to do something because of what Django Sesame did. We want to take some action. The problem is when people go crazy with signals, there are projects that use too many signals, and then you lose like what's happening. There's signals firing everywhere, and signals can start to get in conflict with each other if you're not careful. So be careful with signals. This is a good opportunity for us to use it right, I think. So we're gonna have to, where do we want to put this? Let's go to accounts, and we want a receiver. And where do we want to put the receiver? So I think we want to put the receiver we already have a receiver example? I think we do. Yeah. Oh, we already have this one. So this is a receiver. Let's see how this is used so I can show this easily. Oh, did I remove it? Maybe I removed it. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So when you want to connect to a signal, you bring in the signal itself. So this is the inbound signal from Django AnyMail. And then you call connect and you pass it the receiver function. And then the receiver function has to match the signature of how it's going to be called. And that's why we need a test of what's expected. But you put it in this like ready function area. The reasons for that has to do with app registry stuff. So let's take a look at if the accounts app already has it. It does not. So what we're going to do is we will steal this and put this here and put a pass for now. We're going to eventually connect this ourselves. So we want to put in a receiver, and we will do create a new file, call it receivers.py, and let's call this verify account. Okay. What we don't know I don't know off the top of my head, we can go take a look over here, is what this is called with. It's called with a sender, a request, and a user. Okay. So our version of this should be sender. I think we can just follow the same signature. I think that'll work. And also, while we're at it, we'll go back over here and go to look for, there might be documentation on this particular signal. So let's see what it says. Is it in here? User logged in. Sent when a user logs in successfully. The sender, the request, and the user. Okay. So that's going to be what we need as the signal, the receiver, I mean. And let's just go ahead and wire it up. So we're going to have our account apps over here, and we're going to do from receivers import verify account, and we want from Django contrib. Oh gosh, what do we connect this to? Auth signals import user logged in, and then down here we want to do user logged in connect verify account. So we're not doing anything with this yet, but we're on the right track. So mark, and we'll say with the doc string, we'll say mark an account as verified. And it doesn't know, it's not going to know what context it's going to be called in. I'm not going to put that there, but I just want to have a doc string here. And the fact that it's in a receiver file kind of indicates what it does. So we want to do user account dot verified equals true, and user account save. That's it. I think that's enough. I don't know if there's going to be any problems with our test. Let's just check them real quickly. Ooh, whoops. Signal receivers must accept keyword arguments. Okay, so we missed something here. They've got to apparently have quarks. That's a weird requirement considering we provided all the parameters. I think they just want to make sure they're safe in case the authors of the signal themselves decide to pass in an extra parameter. They don't want to blow up your receiver because you weren't ready to accept some data, which is what that, so you can imagine this like being the the unknown bin of like, if you didn't have this, what would you do? Okay, let's try it again. Cool. We've got some failures. I think these failures might have come about from the last time we were that I was streaming. I didn't, when I committed the code, I committed it in a known broken state because we didn't have everything going. Adapter. I have a test adapter file. I got rid of that adapter. So let's find that and delete that. Definitely don't need this. Yeah, this thing's totally gone. Okay. I want to find out what holes are remaining in the test suite. Okay, so no big complaints there. Now we're on counts models. We're missing a line 22 and 23. So good. Let's go take a look. Because I needed this to get back to a state where we have 100% coverage again. 22, 23. So there is... Interesting. There's no calls to trialing? That's all I can interpret out of this. Huh. All right, I'm going to leave it for now in case it comes back like some code path that I forgot that we used. I don't... Yeah, why would we have used this? Is it in a... Hold on, I'm looking like, is it in a template? Is trialing. That's something different. Count models is trialing. Yeah, that's just a Boolean thing. Okay. Why would we have had a query for trialing? All right, hold on. Let's go to the OpenPR. I've got a bunch of changes in here. Let's go find out. I'm really curious, why did this suddenly go away? So let's search for trialing. Ah, okay. We had some extra checking on how many people were in the trial, and some cap on who was going to be able to sign up. And I'm removing that code, and that's where that query set was coming from. Okay. So now that I've seen that, I'm okay deleting that chunk there. So that was on this, right? Yeah. We can get rid of that. We run make test. Cool. Everything's passing. That's good. What's next? Find out. So we've got this logic that adds verified to true. Maybe we should write a test for it. Well, it must be getting called because something logs in. Like, this signal is happening during this test. It has to be happening. And one simple way to prove how often it's happening is, let's go back to that receiver over here and just make it blow up. Simplest way to make something blow up, those three characters, 1 divided by 0. It's going to give you a 0. It should give you an error. It's okay. The error, 0 division error. I was drawing a blank on what the error name was called. But it's just a quick way to raise an exception if you need to find, like, finding an exception is a fantastic way. Well, okay, a couple things. Assuming you're doing exception handling well, raising an error, throwing an exception, is what you call it in different languages, is a good way to see, is my code actually running, especially in like a test like this. We've proven here that that code path is running, which makes sense. We already saw that with the coverage being 100%, but this just sort of proves it. And then doing 1 divided by 0 is a really short way to get that. There, of course well, maybe not of course if you don't know Python. There are other ways to do this. You could have done raise and then just called exception or something and done something like this. This is what I used to do, where I would kind of do this pattern. And the effect will be the same because it's still raising an exception. But this was a trick that I picked up from watching a talk by Ned Batchelder, who is the guy who makes the coverage package. So very quick way to get like some way to see, can I trigger a code and make it fail so I can see if it's actually even running or not. But it's just proof that we have, how many tests with that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, there's a count here somewhere, Matt. 9 tests and 1 error from that exception. And look at the nature of them. They are the ones where we're going authenticated. Okay, no shocker. So it tells me that the authentication machinery in the test suite is the same one that Django calls in real usage and is hooked up and approves that we hooked our receiver to that signal properly, which is really good. And it leads me to also believe I don't need to write a specific test for that. I suppose I could, maybe that's not totally true, if I wanted to check, yeah, like what would be the test? Maybe I should still write a test for this. Let's think through this. The nice part about this receiver is I don't have to test this in context of authenticating. So we could do, let's do this. Let's do accounts, tests. Okay. We're going to create a test receivers.py file. We'll do class test verify account and test verifies. Not a great name. And account is verified. Well, I'm just going to stop there because we don't even need to test it in the context. Like a bigger integration test would be testing this in the context of is this being invoked when we do the login. So in this case, we could do, whoops, one more quote. We can do user factory. I don't know why that didn't import from journal accounts tests factories import user factory. Okay. And then we can call verify account, and we can then do doesn't matter what this first argument is or the second argument, they aren't going to be used. We pass in the user, and then on the other side we want to assert that let's do it this way: account.objects.filter user equal user. No, we'll do account object. There should only be one of those, and we'll check its verified property, and that's going to return true. It should. So let's do the models from journal accounts. Models import account. And so now we've got a real test that kind of cements that the behavior is what we expect. This is about as groundbreaking as nothing. Like, I don't know, it's really silly kind of thing to test, but it does give us an assurance that it is right. I guess I could also assert here that user account verified. We would actually assert not. That's the precondition. But I don't like doing that. Like, I like depending upon, it feels like over specifying, because we have in the account models, it says what the default's going to be. So I trust the factories to create models appropriately with the defaults that were given to them. So this assert right here, while maybe it tells a good story of what happened, it is redundant in my mind. It feels duplicative of what the model code is telling me. That's my view on that. So that's a simple test that we've got. Now we have a full running test suite. We have proven that once the user logs in and which we know they will log in through this like sign up flow where they will click and a link in their email that it will mark their account as verified. We also then wired that to the promptable stuff. So the thing that sends out the emails, the daily prompts, will what am I trying to say? I just lost my train of thought, sorry. Oh, that will not send it out, sorry. I don't know where my brain went there. I think I was thinking ahead to the next thing that we were gonna do, the other thing that was on a that was broken. Yeah, so this one right here. All right, let's commit. Let's check that in because we're in a better state. And I need to remember, because I'm totally gonna forget. We talked earlier about updating the existing data. So update the existing counts in production, the live site. I'll just say the live site. On the live site to be verified as necessary. That's the chunk of manual work that I talked about a while ago. Okay, so we're going to add a verified field to the account model. That was the chunk of work. And I'll push that up. Okay. With this flow, because of the thing that we're going to get to here of changing the session, I don't want people to have to think about logging in or logging out. It should be like you sign up, you click the link, you're just kind of logged in forever, or effectively forever feeling to you. Because of that, I don't want any reminders in the user interface that you can log out. Not that I'm trying to this is not a Hotel California situation. There's definitely you should be able to log out, and I will make a place for that. I just don't want to make it present in the UI that you're thinking about it. Why would you feel like you want to log out? So right now it's kind of present in a way that I don't like it. Oh, that's interesting. So I want to clean that up. Okay, so here's our flow and our updated experience here, where we got rid of the sign up button. This is the chunk of Jeffrey, you were asking earlier about front end work. Here's the chunk of front end work that we did, where we made this work here. So I can say testing, testing is a way to log in, and we can do start journaling, which is going to send us to this. This will be better in the future if I make a graphic or something that makes it a little bit more visually appealing. I admit this is very bland UI right now, but what that does is it creates this login link that we can take over here and copy that, and then come up to the URL bar, paste in the login link. Oh, we didn't migrate. Whoops. I am partial to Tailwind CSS as my CSS framework. Good question. So let's run uv run manage migrate. Manage py migrate. Okay. So let's try that flow again. It would not have broken if we had, and when we deploy, the deploy will run the migrations automatically. So this is not something that would happen in real life. My reason for liking Tailwind, in case you're curious, is it lets me work fully in the HTML file, and I don't have to have an HTML file over here and a CSS file over here and then make them talk to each other nicely. I get to work all in a single design place, which feels really good. All right, so let's go back. Let's try this again. Whoops, we got to refresh the page because it's got an old token because I just went back. Refresh this page. Try this. There we go. Now we've got a new login page that should be valid. And curious that it's the same token. That's interesting. Oh, I will. Let me show you, and I'll show you the template, what a template looks like in a minute. So let's try this. Logs in. Great. We're logged in. Now, here's what I wanted to get to. I don't want this button down here. It's going to be very simple. We'll take it out, and then we'll go to the settings page, and we'll pop it in here so that you'll have the ability to log out whenever you like. But it's just not going to be like on these options, like down at the bottom. Like I want it to keep it. It'd be nice to keep this list as the same list that you have logged in or logged out. Okay, let's take a look at the templates and that illustrate why I like Tailwind. So if we look at, say, where are we going to start? So I think it's going to be the base template. Tailwind is initially kind of overwhelming at first because you see a lot of these class attributes and you think like, what the heck? How can this be efficient or good or something? And it is kind of counterintuitive. Each one of these things describes some little attribute about the style. So this MX auto is a way that you read this is on the x-axis, the margin, that's what the M stands for, set it to auto mode. So if you have a certain width, which we do because of this container thing, and I'm not going to go into too much of this stuff here, then rather than have your content be, what's the right side for you? This side? Set to the left side of your screen, then put it in the middle with equal margin on either side and automatically set the right margin to do that based on the width. So you can kind of set these attributes really quickly and you sort of stack on them. Now, if you were doing this in a CSS file, you could be like, you could do this. So you would define your own class. You'd say something like my widget as the class name, and then like let's pretend this file over here is a CSS file, and so you define then your CSS rule, which would be my widget, and you put the parentheses and you say margin, and you can do, is it 0 auto like this? I think this is what that should be the vertical, and that's the horizontal. So this is the way that you write CSS if you're writing CSS separately from HTML. The difference though is that like you have to write this identifier class over on your HTML file and then go to a different file to write your CSS, and it's harder to keep track of, and it's like, is this actually even used? I don't know. What if I went back and decided I didn't need this widget anymore, and now that's gone, but you don't know that in your CSS file without like doing a check. So all this kind of stuff leads to this world where it's more to maintain. So Tailwind has proven to be a really effective tool at like all of my structure and style is in a single place, and it makes it really easy to do design work. Okay, let's find though the logout thing. And this is the bit that we have. And I'm gonna actually we'll take this and drop it into the settings template. So let's find the settings HTML page. Yeah, you're welcome, Jeffrey. Hopefully that's useful information. We are gonna take this chunk, take it out of the footer, and for the moment, we'll just plop it right in here. I don't know if that's gonna be what we want. It almost certainly won't be. Like these things are, it's gonna look terrible. But it will get us, let's go back to this page. So let's pay attention to the first part. Okay, so now logout is gone. That's good. And you can still find it though in the settings. We have a button here. It looks like rubbish though. So let's start by putting this in its own paragraph tag. I think that's what we want to, how we want to begin, which is a block element. Oh, okay. Just, these are right next to each other. Okay, fine. Yeah, Mr. Magnetic, a div tag and a paragraph tag are going to be similar, especially with the reset. There's Tailwind is basically like a reset on all the stuff that's here, and so the effect here, like I'll show you. It's going to be the same probably. See, So what's happening is because of the reset, these things are set to not have any default margin between them. And then we've got the padding on the button. But I don't even want to keep that padding. That was specifically designed to work in the footer. So really I want this button style here. Although do I? It's like I thought I had a hover style to these things. Is that not true? Okay. Maybe I don't. But it'll work. It's closer to the style that I want. So let's set it back to a paragraph tag. And then it's on the whole form, which I don't know that I like for adding that style. I should probably put all that style stuff on the button itself. Why did I put it on the form? Kind of weird, Matt. Oh, it might have been because it was in the footer. And because it was in the footer, it was doing some weird stuff with a flex box. This is a flex box, which is a different style from the block model, whatever. The CSS model that the default model for layout. And it was because this was the tag that was being recognized by the flex box model. The button wasn't receiving the styles. Oh, I see. You're saying semantically we could use p tags. I guess that's true. Like if I really wanted to be pedantic about it, I could say like I'm using paragraph tags for the sequence of content here, and then I could have a div here as well. Kind of don't care, but no, point taken. You're correct in that regard. Okay, let's take everything inside the quotes and pop them there. We don't need this class anymore. This is not going to be an inline. So let's try that, see what happens. Okay, at least it moved it down to that spot. And then I don't know why is the color still, where'd the white color come from on this button? White. What? Why does this have white text? Where's that coming from? Text white. From where? Oh, right there. It's on the button. How am I missing that? What? Text. What am I missing? Oh. Oh, right. So this box thing is not even in this template. It's coming, here's the top of the template right here. The base template has the activate stuff somewhere in here. Text white. What? Why is this here? Settings? Oh, that's in the navigation. Okay. Yep. Sorry, y'all. It's been a while since I've looked at these templates, and I'm clearly like not remembering where this stuff is. So like, I don't remember where. I think it's the trial banner. I think is the actual thing that we're talking about. Trial banner, and it's gonna have activate. There it is. Okay. So I think coming back over here to our button, I want to try two things. First, I want to like add the hover brightness 110 to this. Because it was bothering me that it's like not reacting. There we go. Is that enough? Doesn't feel like enough. Hold on. Gonna copy this, create a new private. Thought I had another button somewhere. Oh, that doesn't have one either. Really? Okay. Clearly My front end needs some love. Doesn't feel very like reactive at all. Feels like it's a kind of dead page. I mean, this isn't even showing the hand. What is going on? Like that should be clickable. What is it doing? That's so weird. Okay. That one's at least, maybe it was because of private window. I don't know. It was very strange. All right, we'll do another pass on front end stuff later. I'm really like trying to get the functionality where I want it. So I'm gonna keep the hover brightness there. Let's be consistent with this button over here. So that's just gonna be P2, BG lime, okay, and then text white. That's the bit we're missing. Text white. It's gonna give this, and then we can give some margin. Let's put the margin on the form. Or no, let's put the margin on the paragraph tag, where we're gonna do MY4. Now it needs more space. Let's do. My pattern is to like hang these below. So you see like I'm using MB4 and sort of, and if you are consistent that way, it helps when you're having to reshuffle some stuff around. If I did it this way where I said MY4 and I'm doing top and bottom, then when I try and do something else, it's gonna have a hard time. Just, I don't know, it's a trick I picked up along the way doing design work. If it doesn't make sense, don't worry about it. It is just like you can trust me on that it will cause you problems if you are inconsistent about how you add your padding to things or margin to things. So let's try this. And so essentially we have added the margin to be the bottom margin of this tag and not the top margin of this tag. But notice like, what's going on there? There's something that, can you see it? There's like a different spacing. It might be because of the padding of the button. So if we inspect the settings, you can see it's got the settings there. It has the margin of 1 rem. That's what MY4 means, I guess. It's going to translate to 1 rem. Relative EM, which is itself a relative unit to the width of an M. Not getting into CSS sizing, it's weird. And then we have the M4 here and the M4 there. But it is, okay, it is consistent. It's really just like a trick of the eye. I think it's, yeah, I think it's a trick of the eye. That when I look at this, I see a bigger gap from the baseline of this text right here to the cap line of this text right here. It seems like a bigger gap than this gap between the underline with the button. So I think what I'm going to do is actually add, I'm just going to like intentionally space it out so it feels like it's not part of the settings and the actions, and like give it twice as much space. So it's like, you can also log out. Here are your settings. Here's what you can do. Oh, this is a lie. Activate your account on the home page. No, you can activate your account right there. So let's get rid of that message. If you're trialing, okay. If you're active, you would see a link to your billing portal. But if you're trialing, I initially had this so you'd see this message because we didn't used to have this trial banner. But now this looks really stupid. It's like saying, here's the big gigantic activate your account button. And it's saying go over here to your homepage to actually click this button. We don't need to say that. Excuse me. So let's get rid of, is this the only place is trialing is used? It is. Should I get rid of that too? Maybe. Might. I'll leave it in the model unless the tests complain, which it might. So let's get rid of that. Get rid of that. Change this to an if. So if you're active, then you're going to see this manage your billing stuff. Otherwise, you just see the action to export your stuff. Cool. And we've moved the logout button over here. I think it's still the right place to log out. Let's check it just to confirm. So let's refresh. Let's click logout. Great, we're back to here. Cool. That feels right. Let's run the tests. See how they go. Yep, what I expected. So that is trialing thing. That's totally failing now. I didn't have an explicit test for it, but nothing is using it. And it's a stupid and simply simple property. So if we need to bring it back in the future, we can. But right now we don't need to. I used to be a bit more reserved about deleting code that was unused, and then realized, like, if I need it, I'll just bring it back. I'll have this in Git history. It's not a big problem. All right, let's see where we are. So we have moved the logout to the sending page, and I think that's that one. I think I have time for, well, we're getting close to the end. I don't know that I want to deploy this. Actually, I know I don't want to deploy this. So a weird thing happened. I started this machine up, and the reason I was delayed this evening is I started the Mac up, and the Mac said Docker is like malware. It was really weird. You can actually maybe even see some of my tabs here. I was getting this going beforehand of like, what the heck is going on with my machine? And I think it's tied to my particular version of Mac, but I just like updated all of my Mac OS to the latest version. So I'm hoping that Docker will install now. But it means that currently I don't have Docker installed, which means that I cannot deploy because my deployment process depends upon Docker. So we're not going to get this all the way to production tonight because of that reality, but we'll continue to chug through all these things here. Let's commit this work because this chunk is done. Let's see, we'll say move log out button to settings. So there's that. And we're ready to move on to the next bit. So here is where, this is where we're going to actually use a receiver for a little bit more than I really even thought about. If you are not verified, then it implies that you've never signed in before. And if you get to that verify account section, well, I'll probably have to rename this now. Shoot. If you get to there, it tells me, or tells the app, that this is your first time logging in if verified is false. Because after that point, we just spent that time writing that receiver. After this happens, verified is set to true, and it's forever saved as true. There's nothing that sets it back to false. So this is a one-time event that will happen on first login. And this is a great opportunity to actually trigger the thing that was missing. So my last fix me here says handle email confirmed. Another way of viewing this is handle verified. When somebody becomes verified, send them a prompt immediately. That was the objective. So what I want to do is essentially take this code and we're going to call send prompt on this account and send them their first email. Because what was happening with the the app is the app is all about journaling. And the idea is like you're excited to journal and you get to journal via your email. And the way the app works is it sends you an email and you respond to a prompt. But before I had this particular receiver in place, which is no longer connected to anything, what would happen is you wouldn't actually get your first prompt until the next day, because the sending of the prompts is on a cron job. So it's possible you could have signed up 1 minute after all my prompt emails get sent out, and you have to wait a full day before you get another prompt. So what I want to have happen is like, I want you to have a good first experience, and I want you to know what the app is going to feel like. So when you sign up, if you click the verify link to go to the web, what should immediately occur is like, all right, we've confirmed that you're real. You actually wanted to sign in. Let's give you what the experience of the app is like, which is sending a prompt. So the way that we can replicate this is that in our receiver file that we just created, we can basically check right here if user, well, what would it be? If not user account verified. So this is a special circumstance where this is your first time here, and effectively what we want to do is take this code. We're not going to do account. We already have the user, so we would want to do user.account. Actually, that's it. That's everything. And we want to bring in Django utils and put that there, and then do the transmitter and do that there. So this is now not just account verification anymore, though. This is now, what do we want to, let's rename this thing. So let's rename it to, it's no longer verify account, it's now handle user logged in. Let's just be really boring. Like that's what the signal is called. So our receiver is going to be using a kind of crappy name, but that's okay. Let's go over to the test receiver for the accounts. And let's change it to test handle user logged in. That's what it is now. I did a refactor that wrote to all the files, so it's actually in the place that we had it over here too. So it's, in case you're wondering, like, wait, you had a different name. So my editor did that for me. So that's what that is now. And I think this is actually, in some way, this is actually could cause some like login delay, because it's going to try and send an email here, which technically could go a little slower. So what I could do that I don't know that I want to. So there's an ability to send a task. And so see right now, if I go to the send prompt that's in this transmitter, it at the bottom here actually calls an email message, and it calls send. And this line right here, line 62, is doing an API call that calls SendGrid. So technically it could fail, right? And technically it's going to take time. There will be latency. Like this is a blocking call that is trying to make an API call and wait till it returns. This is a one-time cost for somebody who logs in. And I think I'm okay. I think I'm okay with this. That there's a little bit of delay. The other way I could have done this is, if I didn't want this to happen, I could have gone into the entry tasks and made an asynchronous version, where we have something like, it would be a task. So it would be db task, which I don't have imported right now, and send prompt as the task version of this, where I could still take an account or an account ID, and I'd have to take date differently as a today string or something like that. This is where it would get annoying, because I'd have to do some parsing in order to get this stuff back, and then I could send this to my background worker. And so that if the performance really mattered and it needed to happen on the background work instead, this is how I would do that. But I don't feel like that's necessary. So, but just talking out loud of what would I've done if I wanted to be as optimum as I could. Instead, what this will do is, like it says, okay, you're not verified, so that means that you're, actually let's put a comment. Must be first log in if not verified. Send a prompt immediately. That's what we're trying to do. What is this? Let's go to entry receivers. What did I say here? Send a prompt to a user as soon as they confirm. Yeah, okay. That's the same idea. Is anything calling this code right now? How is this getting called? Oh, I have a test for it. Okay, so we want to move that test to the receiver section, and this then I think it will do what we expect it to do. So let's find that test, because it's not a bad test, and we want to take the whole test. We'll yank that, go over here. We'll do account test receivers and paste it here. What's going on? What happened? Did I join that? Why did that paste so weird? What the heck? So this is now the user logged in signal handler sends a prompt. Change that signature. User logged in. Okay. It's some imports. Booey. And why did you not give us space? What's going on? Oh. Handle user logged in. We know that it takes a. Oh, okay. I was being a little bit better about documenting. All right, I should do this. I think this code down here is fine. Well, I'll leave it for a moment. So we can do this a little differently. We can say, we can pretend that we have what these things are, and like otherwise they're just none. So we can call these sender is none, and we knew that the next one is request is none. So we can do sender and request, so that it becomes a little bit clearer about what it's documenting. I think I could even do this in one line with like this. Frankly, I hate this syntax. It's always confusing. So I'm going to do it on 2 lines. And we will take this stuff. We won't actually use HTTP request. I don't think we need that. And we'll bring in the prompt model where it goes. And so now it's still going to be the same existence test. The purpose is to say, like, did you send a prompt? There's one piece of evidence that will come out of this send prompt call if you were not verified. And I suppose I could have done this in one test, but it's fine to have 2 to say this. So if we call this, whoops, oh no, that's not good. That's not good at all. Oh, sad. Well, we have to go fix something. Okay, we've got a cycle here, I think. What's happening? We're calling the transmitter send prompt thing inside the receiver. The receivers are tricky. The challenge with this receiver, let's take a look at it. So we've got the accounts receivers. It's calling, it needs to import this thing. Okay, on its face, that's not a problem. But then if you go to the definition of send prompt, you see that it imports a model. And here's where the problem lies. The Django, when it starts up, it has to start up all of its apps and have does some work under the hood to make sure that the apps are ready to go. That includes some work with the models and doing some inspection on stuff. And it means that when you then import a model from an app that is not ready, Django's like, whoa, 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 slow your roll. I'm not ready to handle that yet. And the receiver stuff happens very, very early. It's connected. Where do we have it? So we could fix this in one of two ways. So we could make the receiver, like, I think here. Let me see if I can demonstrate how we can fix this in two ways. So one way, if we run the test, this should blow up, right? Apps aren't ready. So one way to fix this is to take this import to send prompt and put it inside of the handler function. Put it here at that point. And now over here, I mean, we still have to fix this. Stir object, what? Oh, I see. It's getting called wrong. This is supposed to be user. So it's fixed, but you can see that we had to bring the import inside of the handler. And then you'd have this problem of, like, anytime you wanted to import something from this receiver, then you gotta, like, do this game where you're actually putting it inside of the actual receiver function itself, which feels kind of gross. So instead, what we're gonna do, like, we're back to a broken state. I know that a common pattern is when you have receivers, what's really happening is if we go to the account apps where this is imported, the problem is we're pulling in receivers at this top level. And here's the subtle point. If something is called inside of this ready function, it's after all the apps are loaded. But the import time is before ready is invoked. So it tries to go to handle user logged in, and then in the process of importing handle user logged in, did I lose connection here? Maybe it was just my stream deck. Okay, you're all still there, best I can tell. Sorry. In the process of using handle user logged in, it needs to import send prompt, which then tries to get the account thing. And that's where it all blows up. So that chain fails because in the process of loading the app, it loaded another app's model that wasn't ready. So that's what happened. So in this case, we can take the receiver and we can put it inside the ready function. And now this import is going to be delayed until all the apps are loaded when ready is called. And since all we're doing in here is like wiring up some handlers, it feels better to put this, if you have to move an import inside of a function, it feels better to do it in here than inside the receiver function itself. Because in the receivers file, there may in the future be other things that we want to import in here. And if we have to put everything inside of a handler, that's going to be pretty annoying. Hopefully that made sense. All the tests seem to be passing. So that's good. I think we fixed that problem, and I think we're ready to go to the fix me and delete this guy over here. So let's delete this function. Delete this, clean up here. We're all good here. So now we're just handling inbound events. That's still what we're done. No, we're not touching that code. I'm not going to talk about it. That code is fine. We do have some broken tests, I'm sure. Test receivers. This handle email confirmed no longer works. So that's there. Let's delete that function. Okay. Are there any other problems? All right, no more diagnostic problems. Okay, we're good. So let's run the test suite, see how it's going. We're missing some coverage now. What else? I wonder what else we removed in that process. Something else from the model file. Probably some other helper thing we did. Okay, so let's go to accounts models, and look at 26. What is that? Oh. Yeah, we're not using this from email anymore. Makes sense. We don't have, we're not, previously when we were doing against the email verified, what the signal would give you is the email verified. So we had to look up the account. But now with this thing, we already have the account because this is after the auth system is logged in. So we know we have a valid instance of a user record, and we know that there's a one-to-one field in the account. So we can access it directly rather than having to do a query. So we don't have to do this query anymore. So we can get rid of that query set there. So we run this test, and everything should pass at this point. Let's do a quick sanity check on the diff to make sure we've got it all right. So we've renamed the thing, and we moved the receiver inside of the ready. That feels good. Got rid of the extra query set method. The very simple bit of logic is if you're not verified, send the prompt. That's the first time. After that, you'll always have it set to true, so this will only happen the one time. We have a test. We wrote the test. We basically just moved the test from the other place. And then we deleted the old unconnected handler and deleted the old unconnected handler's test. So cool. Let's see. Send prompt on first login for unverified user. Well, yeah, that's right. So we've got this is now done. I think the last thing I want to do before I wrap up for the evening is this Django session thing. It's really a settings thing. It's pretty minor in terms of what we have to actually change. But let's talk philosophically about why. Some people will argue that your sessions should be short-lived. In fact, I feel like every security engineer I've ever met would like their sessions to be like mind-bogglingly short. I don't know, 10 minutes, or keep it active. And that flies in the face of, or this seems to fly in the face of that guidance. And the philosophy here is if you're signing into an app, it is really on you as a user to kind of say, yeah, I want to sign into this app. So if you're signing into a library, that's kind of, and you can do that, it's fine, but it's like, make sure you're wise about it. And so I'm not gonna like hold a user's hand and like try and ruin the experience for many other people, because logging in's a pain. Nobody likes logging in. Like I have to go through my password manager every time I want to do it, or I have to, look up something, or it's irritating. So if we can minimize that pain by extending this to a long period of time, then we're going to provide a better user experience where they just basically come back to JourneyInbox and it's just like picks up where you left off. And this should feel very much like a lot of apps you use. If you're on, well, I'm not on Instagram, but I'll assume it works similarly, but I do recall from like LinkedIn or X or lots of social media platforms, they don't want you to leave. And so I feel like for those apps, I rarely have to log in. And I want a similar feeling for this app. As it just, as a user experience, it feels better. And it feels like an acceptable trade-off from a security point of view. And if that's not your thing, well, sorry, that's the way that my app is going to work. So we want to find that session length, and I don't remember what that parameter is. So let's ask, in this case, I think we can ask ChatGPT, what is the Django setting that controls session length or session duration? I don't know. See what it answers. Session cookie age. I think that's the one. And let me check if SchoolDesk sets this. I think I do set this in SchoolDesk. Yeah, it's Braxy. It's basically the session lifetime. So let's look at the homeschool repository and look for Let's just open it up. It's going to definitely be in the settings file, so we know where that's going to be. Session cookie age. Okay, so my other app, you can see I allow this to be for a month. So we're going to take this actually and just copy this code. Go over to settings. I don't think I have session anywhere else. Oh yeah, I guess I do. Just here. Well, that's fine. I'll do this. Let's see. Session. All right, it would alphabetically go here. So we're going to say for a year, allow users to be logged in for a year. And this is based on seconds. So you can see I was basically doing 30 times 24 hours times 60 minutes times 60 seconds to get the representation. And we'll do 365. We can verify this too, or we should be able to verify this. Actually, let's verify it in both states. So let's start with 14. And as just an example, and let's get things going. Actually, because this will be the first time we log in with this testing account, it might actually also get evidence of sending a prompt too, which we'll dump out on the console. It should be interesting. So let's go back, although maybe it's still logged in. Are you still logged in? Nope. Let's do test at testing, which is the account that we've been using. And we can come over here. So you can see it's given us our login token, which we'll copy. And what I expect, actually, let's put out some space here. What I expect is we can come up here and paste this in, and we will get logged in, but also it should be, wow, what happened? Why did you not send a prompt? Oh, maybe we had logged in and it was verified. Okay, I'm gonna assume it was verified. We'll check on this stuff later. I'm gonna do like a full end-to-end test after everything is done. So we are logged in at this point, and the goal was, the reason I wanted to get this up is I wanted to look at the storage and check on the token itself. And so here we are, it's January 30th. There's the session token, and you can see it's set to February 14th. So 2 days, right? Or sorry, 2 weeks, which is exactly what we thought. Okay, now let's stop this. Let's change our settings. And I just want like solid confirmation that we're getting the session cookie age that we expect. So now we're setting it to be a full year. Let's start this up. Let's go to our page over here and log out. And then we're going to do test at testing, right? And we'll log in. We will come over to this guy. And can I right click on this? Oh, good. It is doing that. Open selection as URL. We're logged in. We can open up this. We see our session ID. And now we see that it is set for January 31st, 2026. Braxy, yes, that is exactly what I'm doing. I'm setting this. This will guarantee authentication for a year on this machine. And that's where some people, like, they bristle at that. Like, they say, hey, I don't want to do that. And to which I say, sorry, that's how this app is going to work. If you want to log out, you can log out, but that's my philosophy here. So here we go. This is where this is now logged in for a year, and it will never pester them about this. So the goal of a lot of what I'm doing is like not only simplifying sign up of it's just your email. I don't want people to log in a lot because every time they log in, that is an email that is getting sent to give them that link. And I'm on a free tier for SendGrid, so it's not something I want to have a ton of. So if I can log you in one time and there's like nothing that's going to log you out, then I know that I've kind of eaten that cost once for somebody, and then it's sort of safe after that for a very long time. But that's it. It's good. It's doing the thing we want. I think the thing I want to test now is a full check of like a new account that hasn't been used before. So let's go to localhost token. Let's log in a private session here. I think it's Matt at create course is the local password. Yeah, okay, good. So here's our set of users, and here's their email addresses. So we just want to pick one that doesn't exist. There's only 32 of them, so it's not going to be a problem. So we'll do, we'll call it like simple auth at testing.com will be our new user. That user doesn't exist. So we will know that person, that account will have verified is false initially, which we could actually, I'll leave this up so that we can verify that. So then because what I want to see is like, did the first send prompt thing, does it actually work? We haven't hit that. I've not seen that code path get exercised locally yet. So let's log out of here. So now we're here. We'll say simple auth. Actually, I don't know what you mean by sliding the session. If you can say more, I would appreciate that. If you want to, I'm happy to answer your question, but I don't know what you're referring to. So we got simple auth here. Okay, it's telling us to go over here. Let's look at no, I'm not updating the session. It will still expire after a year. So it is, I see what you're saying now. So like you're asking like if somebody comes back in, will it just adjust everything to always be like 1 year out? No, it is like it's set in that cookie, and if you come in and your cookie is still valid, it doesn't try and re-auth. It will eventually expire. So it does put there is an eventual time bound where you will get logged out, but it will be a full year from now. Okay, let's refresh the page. We should see simple auth. Yep. The usernames don't matter. I wanted those to be random. That's intentional. That's what the UUID is there. But there's the email address. And we should be able to go to accounts. That's the account. Oh, I should probably switch this to email. Let's do that. Can I do it? Yeah, I can do this. I should be able to do this now. Account, admin. Let's do not user. Let's do user email. Yeah. That work? Yeah, there we go. So that's way more useful because I do want to think of people by their user email. Like I don't have any other identifying information about anybody. I'm not asking for their name or anything. So this is how I will interact with people until, of course, unless they became a customer in Stripe and they input more details. But this is the way that I can tell. So we've got simple auth, and if we go into the account, we should see that this is unchecked, which means it's false. So we have back over here our token. I believe our token should still be valid, even though our test server restarted. Guess we're about to find out. And we're going to paste in the token and try and log in. Okay, so, oh, good. Cool. So coming over here, refreshing this should now be a checkbox when we refresh the page, which it is. Braxy, I'm happy to sum this up in a minute. And you can see that it's now verified. That's cool. And in our console output, you can also see that we are sending the first prompt. So reply to this prompt to update your journal. And then we say, you have no entries yet. As soon as you do, a random previous entry will appear in your prompt. That is what the first message is, and it happened the first time. We also saw it when that testing user must have been verified previously, because we had done that login off flow a couple times before adding the first prompt check. And we saw that it did not send for someone who had verified true, which is the behavior we expect. So I think that gives me some reasonable confidence that all of the features that we want with this easy sign up flow are working. And you just saw, we tested it end to end. I didn't do it through like an official email client, like on my phone or something, but the console behavior is effectively an email backend. It represents like what it would have sent. So I think the only thing left to do will be for me to do this data update and deploy. And frankly, there's no code work there. So I know that with this project, I commit to doing every chunk of code on stream. And we did. Every chunk of code, this feature in my mind is now done. So I think I will probably, after the stream is over, because the deploy is sort of the boring part anyway, there's nothing really to see there. I will do the necessary updates on the account data after I deploy the work, and then call the feature over. And then we'll move on to something else. Okay, Braxy, to your question. The service is, here's whoops, that's not the service. Here's the service. It's called JourneyInbox. I'll drop a link here. You're welcome to sign up if you want. It's a free trial. And as you can see, it doesn't take any credit card. This page will change to the, actually you might be able to see the difference. What is it, still running? Yeah, it's still running. So let's log out of here. So let's log out. You can see the difference in the UI after these. So before, it was taking you to a sign up page. This is the public thing, and where you'd sign up here. Now it's different. Now it looks like this, where it's like you don't have to go to a sign up page, you just sign up right here. That's not what you asked me. What you asked me is like, what is this service? So this is a software as a service that will help you become someone who journals, if that is what you're interested in. Someone who journals daily, or at least has a daily record. And the way it works is all via email. Well, not all via email. Obviously, there's some website for the sign up. The primary interface is through email. So what you do is you sign up here, and then you will start getting prompts every day, assuming that your account is verified. You have to log in first. That's why we did that verification stuff. Once you're verified, you'll start receiving these email prompts to your whatever account you signed up with. You respond to that email, and the email prompt, we didn't really highlight this, but let's take a look at the subject line of one of these. So the email prompt says what the day is. It's Friday. How are you? That is the prompt that comes in every day. I mean, it doesn't look exactly like this one, but it looks like whatever the day is. And by responding to that email, this is intended to be a daily journal. And by responding to that email, you are updating your journal for that day's entry. And that's most of the interface. What makes this interesting, because if it was just that, then you could just have a reminder every day to write stuff down, and that would be pretty good, right? But what makes this interesting is the hook to this is that as you start to journal more and more, what JourneyInbox does is it digs into your archive of previous entries, pulls out a random one, and puts that into the prompt. I have literally on mine, so this is a service, I have copied a previous service that was existing. It was having reliability problems, and I got tired of it. And so I said, no, I'm going to make my own service and put it over here. In that process, I was able to export my data and plop it all into JourneyInbox. I was using that other service for 7 or 8 years, and now have been using JourneyInbox for over a year. I think over a year at this point. So it's got effectively 10 years worth of journal entries to pull from. And it's really cool. It's a cool experience where I open up a prompt, one of my daily prompts, and I can see what I was thinking about in a paragraph or two 5 years ago, 7 years ago. I see stories about my children. I see reminders of vacations that I took and just where my, or just sometimes it's like boring. It's like my daily life. Like not every day is some grand adventure. It's often like, here's what I did at work today. And sometimes that's exciting. Sometimes it's frankly not so exciting. But it's just a reminder of life. And so that's the service in a nutshell. Is it by having that hook that keeps you back of like, let's reminisce a little bit, and then also reflect on what you're doing today. That helps you build this habit of becoming a journaler. So I have my pattern of using it is I don't end up using it every day. I end up I build up a little buffer of these entries, and I sit down at some point and will write about like what was I doing that day? Are there thoughts that I want to carry over? It'd be nice if I was doing it daily, but it's just the pattern I've fallen into is a couple times a week is when I'll kind of go through a bunch of my journal emails and write down stuff. So that's the core functionality. I do have a bunch of thoughts on how to make it better, how to do other kinds of things. Like you could imagine maybe what if you did an annual review, like a personal reflection, or a quarterly review, or I've thought about what if we could put other things into the actual prompt emails of random inspirational quotes or stuff like that, or what if we did sentiment analysis on, this is what you wrote 4 years ago. It looks like you were not feeling that great, or I don't know. I'm not really sure. There's lots of ideas of what you could do with the actual journal content. What's important to me is that I respect people's privacy. So that's really important to me. Yeah, yeah, I like that. I could take. I am interested. That's an interesting idea. Like, what happens if I took a month's worth of entries and just dumped it into ChatGPT and, hey, ChatGPT, tell me how I was. Tell me what my January was like. Was I in a good state of mind, or how'd things go? Was it a good month or a bad month or indifferent? Whatever. So that's the product. And now I think it's even easy. It will be. This is not. Remember, this is the localhost version. So once this is out there, it'll be even easier to sign up. People can get started right away, and then I think we're in a position to like add to it. It's going to wrap up for this evening. If anybody's still around, do me a favor and thumbs up if you enjoyed what you heard about. That'd be great. I'd be appreciative. Subscribe if you're into that. I do stream regularly on this kind of content. My other product, which I think we'll actually shift to next time, is a homeschool application. And I want to do a lot of what I did here to make that sign up process easier. It's also important to me to make the onboarding experience. What I mean by that is like, what is your first experience when you sign in? The difference between the homeschool application and this app is that this app is very like, put in your data as your days happen. With the homeschool application, what it is, and it's called the School Desk. So this is the site that I built for my family. We homeschool my two children. So this is a tool that actually my wife uses way more than I do as the primary educator of my kids. But it is a tool that she wanted for how to do scheduling. And with the app, there's just a certain minimum amount of data that needs to be input before you see any of the utility of the application itself, for reasons I'm not going to get into today. But the way that the flow works, something about Django all-auth, first of all, something that Django all-auth did broke the flow. So if you signed up for this today, you would not get the experience that I'd want you to have, which is after you click the verify my account button in your email, it was supposed to dump you to a page of like, welcome to School Desk. and here's how this works, and here's like a wizard of a bunch of pages to go through. It's not even working that way, so that's one downside. It's also like way more complicated than I want it to be. I think there's a lot. I could simplify a lot of this to make it so that it is a single page of here's the data you have to input. You have to input like a school year and what student you want to have and what grade are they in, what's a class they're taking, so on. These basic data elements, and that's what I want the sign up experience to be. So I think what we'll do next is try to simplify this app, the login process, sign up process, in the same kind of way as the current one that we just worked on, but then also do that onboarding cleanup. So that's where we'll go next. So I'm going to call it from there. I will deploy this feature and do all these last steps, and then we'll close this out, and then we'll move to the next one. I think next week, I'm trying to decide. Yeah, next week I should be around. So Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern time is when I stream. Thank you for joining in this evening. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you learned something about Django or how to do app development or any number of things. And I will catch you next time. Take care.